Hello, my name is Jourdain Searles, and I'm a film critic and programmer, and I'm so happy to be joining the director of the film Medusa, Anita.
Hi. Thank you all. Thank you.
This is a film that I watched at a festival, I think a year or two ago. I don't even remember which one.
1 year.
1 year. Time
Not so
has,
much. Yeah.
time has really just been getting away from us. But I immediately loved it. I wanted to review it, and then I was so bogged down by festival stuff that I didn't get around to it. So I was so glad that I got an opportunity to talk to you. And my first question would be, what inspired you to make this film?
So around 2015, I was launching my first feature, Kill Me Please. Everybody asking, what's your next project? And I was completely lost.
Mm.
And at the same time, I was starting to feel the conservative rise in Brazil. It was coming, not as it is today, but we could feel that something was changing. And I read this news about a group of teenage girls that got together and they beat another girl in their high school because they considered this girl to be the slut. And that not only they beat, but for this group was important to make this girl look ugly for them. So they cut her hair, they cut her face. And it was in the news because this girl ended up with some neurological issues. But then some weeks after, I read a similar news, now with young adults, like young woman around 20 years old in a neighborhood, beating another woman there. And then I went to Google and started to research girl gang, girls beating other girls. And I found some news about that. And so that phenomenon had something for me to do with the conservative rise in Brazil, because you could see in the news this idea that women should be submissive to men, and that women should be maiden-like, and things like that was being said as something normal. And that reminded me of the myth of Medusa, because in the origin of the myth, Medusa was punished by Athena, the virgin goddess. In one version of the myth, she was raped. In the other, she had sex. But since she was no longer a virgin, Athena transformed her into this horrible creature. So I started to think how a myth that has thousands of years until today can resonate with the Brazilian society. So that was the starting point.
I mean, that's quite a starting point.
Okay.
I've been watching a lot of Brazilian films lately, and I noticed that there is a lot of motifs of a conservative uprising. Is that still going on?
Yes, but we have elections now in October, so I'm really hopeful that things will change, and that. But I think during the past few years in Brazil, we have this feeling that it was always getting worse. You'd say it can get worse, and it was getting worse. And at some point, even the majority of the media is right to center. So if you go to the streets to protest, in the media could be something that would turn out to be something bad. So we didn't know what to do, basically, in Brazil. Even the part of the comatose house in the film was inspired by this feeling. We don't know what to do. So I think a lot of filmmakers and artists started to use the art to talk about what was happening in Brazil, because you didn't know, should you protest online? Should you go to the streets? What can you do? What should you do? I think during the past few years, people were completely lost. Now these elections in October is something that a lot of people is hoping for. If the elections would happen now, Lula would be elected in the first round. But it's Brazil, so anything can happen. That was what I learned during the past few years. Anything can happen in Brazil, so we never know until October what will be.
Yeah, I was actually speaking to director Gabriel Martins, who did Mars One recently, and he was also talking about the elections. So I hope that they go well.
Yeah, no, everybody. No, I think Lula will be elected. We are more afraid about a coup or something like that.
Yes, yes. Well, thinking about Brazil and the complex racial makeup of the country, I was curious about the significance of you choosing a woman of color to be at the center of this film.
Mari, she was in my first feature, Kill Me Please, in a secondary role. Kill Me Please, I have a leading actress, but it's a film about a group of 4 teenage girls, and one of them was Mari. And I met Mari in an open audition when she was 15. And after Kill Me Please, 2 of the girls, they went fast to work for television. The other decided she didn't want to be an actress, but she wanted to work with cinema. And Mari was the only one that was not working as an actress, and she was the only one that was of color, and she was also the only one from a more poor neighborhoods. And when I start to think about Medusa, it comes together to think about write a role for Mari. Because, I don't know, for me, she was, when I met her in this open audition she made the best test. But at that point, I cast as a leading character a girl that looked like me. And something that I realized as a filmmaker is that it's too easy to only put someone that looks like you in the script. You have to write. So I wrote a character that's a ultra-right character from another upbringing. And for me, it was important to write this character for Mari. In Brazil, some people even told me, you shouldn't be doing that in Brazil, I'm perceived as white, so as a white director, you shouldn't be doing that. I said, why not? It's important, people of color need to work as anybody else. So why not? I wrote this character with Mari in mind. I want this character to Mari. And her being black bring more complexity to the character. I talk with her a lot. Since when I met her, we talk a lot about her process with her hair. When I met her, she was doing the transition with her hair, because since she was like 8, she put a lot of chemics in her hair. And
yeah,
when she was
I had that
around
same experience.
14, 15, she started to do the transition.
Mm-hmm.
So in my first feature, her hair is curly, but not fully curly, as it is now. We talk a lot about, even when she discovered that she was black, because she didn't realize that until she was around 10 years old, that she was black. So I think Mari is a super smart young woman, and she contributed a lot in our conversations with the script, with the casting, and yes, and I try also in the rest of the cast to construct something that looks like Brazil, having people from different backgrounds and other actors of color in the screen.
Yeah, it was definitely a diverse cast, and I also really appreciated the stuff with Mari and her hair, because as she, becomes more herself, as she becomes more free, she stops straightening it, and even just watching her straighten it just like reminded me of high school, and just like the smell of burning hair. So I really appreciated that part. I thought it brought a lot of layer to the character.
Used to kid that her hair was also a character in the film.
Yeah. And I mean, the contrast between her and Michelle was really fascinating, their relationship. And it's funny because I watched this movie a year ago. I remember that there was something queer in it. And then I was like, oh, it's Michelle. I just kept on thinking about it. And what kind of was going through your mind when you decided, okay, so this is kind of what's going on with Michelle, this subtext that's text for like a second?
Yeah, no, for me, Michelle is also a very complex character. And as the queen bee of that group, so she had to be blonde. And for me, Medusa, one of the themes of the film is control. These young humans, these girls, they have to control themselves so much that they start to control the others. And then I thought about, I made all this story of Michelle that's not in the film, that she's the niece of the minister, her parents are super rich and this and that, and she's supposed to be the holy model for the whole community. But she was born a lesbian, and she was fighting this feeling all the film. So she had this friendship with Mari that she's almost a friendship that you can perceive in the film as toxic, because she's not the best friend to Mari. Sometimes she humiliated Mari. But in my subtext that we created, she was fighting the repressed feelings that she had for Mari all the time. So, and in the end, after she's a little bit possessed by the scream, she's able to demonstrate that feelings. And with Mari, you don't know if it's mutual or not. I think Mari a bit more like a bisexual character, someone that's only exploring and going with the flow. But for me, Michelle is a very repressed girl, and And yes, but I had all this story about who Michelle was and her family and her upbringing.
I mean, there's a lot to glean from it. Even, when we see her black eye, that's not like fully explained what that is. And I like that it's just like, it's there. It's something that she's dealing with.
Yeah, for me, the boyfriend beats on her. That was the idea I tried to construct, because there's another scene that he's grabbing her by the arm.
Yeah, I remember that scene. Yeah, it's fascinating to watch.
But can be the father as well, can be other person.
Oh yeah, I guess it could have been. I just assumed that it was him. I watching this film, I thought a lot about, because I grew up in the South, I grew up Southern Baptist, and I remember talking to other people about this film, and people were just like, well, I don't know, like, would it even get that bad? It seems like a lot. And I was just like, no, I mean, there were definitely scenes in this film that reminded me of like Bible camp and just like the kind of judgment, the kind of expectation. And so I think I really, as much as like we talk about like satire now and things going a little bit far, I actually don't even think it goes far enough. I think it goes pretty far. I love the ending,
The film was inspired by a real church. That's a mainstream church in Brazil. If I put at some point developing the script, I was writing some things that I found in the research, and then I realized if I put that, people think that I went crazy. So I stayed with something that's more a mainstream church in Brazil. Everything that the minister says is inspired by real life speeches. The boys' army is inspired by a real boys' army. So I didn't went very crazy.
No,
There's some things going on there.
I mean, there are a lot of these things going on, and I mean, I think it's important that we put them in a film and really like talk about it and not be like, oh, that's not happening. It is. It's happening here too. So to kind of like switch gears just a little bit, I wanted to ask about how you came up with the look of the film, because I love it, especially filming that final scene where they're all screaming and running. I would love to know more about your process with that.
Let's see. About the colors, when I'm writing the script, I start to think what's the color of the film. My previous one was purple. For Medusa was the green, like green color of the nature, the serpents, something that reminded me of freedom. And the red in opposition, the color of blood, a horror color of life. And also important thing in this process is that me and Jourdain, the DP, we decided to choose the colors on set. In my first feature, that Jourdain was also the DP, we used only color grading. But for Medusa, we decided to shoot in a way more the filmmakers from the 70s and the 80s that we really love used to do. We were very inspired by Dario Argento, by Brian De Palma. We were able to rent anamorphic lenses. That was very important to us. We wanted to go with this look and to commit with the colors on set, to construct this bold look on set. Like, let's put the green, the red, and that's it. Now we can't go back. For the last one, the girls screaming, or the one of the Mari encounters Melissa?
The screaming at the end.
Yeah, no, the binocular is something that I was a bit inspired by her window. How to say the Hitchcock film? I can't pronounce in English.
What?
The Hitchcock film, her window. Oh my God, my English is very stuck. It is Janela Indiscreta in Portuguese, but now. Rear window, thank you.
Rear window. Oh yeah, no, I totally get what you mean.
Yeah, but I like this. We started to first think about it's Mari. She used that during the film, but in the end it's not Mari anymore. We used to say, the Jourdain, the DP used to say that was the devil was looking. But now, for me now, the spectator that's looking at another point of view. And for the girls screaming, this image come to me also because of Medusa, because the first ending of the script was a very depressing ending, but then the situation in Brazil was so bad that I decided, no, I have to go with a happy ending. That's my version of a happy ending. So I went back to the Medusa, and this, for example, the Caravaggio Medusa. When you think about Medusa, you think about the Caravaggio Medusa. And there's a lot of paintings that Medusa is screaming. And it's a screaming that she's anger, not that she's afraid. And I found also some texts from the 70s, from some feminists talk about the scream of Medusa as a way to release this pain, a way to release this anger that sometimes women carry for generations. So that for me was an inspiration for the ending, something more corporal. These girls, they were so cerebral during the film, they had to control themselves so much that at the end they have to lose this control. They have to put the anger out there. They have to fight. They have to run. So for me, the ending is going back to the Medusa. That was a little bit of my process.
Well, I mean, it's a great scene, and it's very cathartic, and it makes me wish that there's any place that we could yell in New York, but there's really no room.
No,
we go upstate.
We shot before the pandemic, and when I was shooting, my idea that people would scream in the movie theater. But now I think with COVID, everything changes. I think if someone starts to scream, the others will be like, oh no, they're speaking on me.
We can't do that here. Maybe outside.
Yeah.
If there was like an outdoor screening. I think that would be really cathartic. So I wanted to now kind of open it up for questions from the audience. I can't see everyone, but maybe Anita can.
In your other film, in Kill Me Please, you had you were set in a rich neighborhood in Brazil, like with like Novo Rich, right? And now you're setting in, I would assume, is a more working class environment, right? So how was this decision for you to switch gears and really focus? Because I think for me, I think it's important to show that conservatives and like people who elect Bolsonaro is not just rich people, right? It's like people in all places of society, right?
Actually, as Rafael said, my first feature was set in this neighborhood in Rio, a very specific neighborhood, and it was so difficult to authorize to shoot in these neighborhoods, the streets and everything, that when I started to write Medusa, one of my ideas was this film is not going to have, it would be more an interior film, because my other film was a lot of exterior scenes and a lot of things could happen. And the other film was a very daily film. And shooting in the sun in Rio de Janeiro, that's always summer, was a nightmare. So I decided this film would be indoors, would be a night film. And the city won't matter the city, which is. In my idea, I decided to write a city that would be like a medium-sized city in an interior in Brazil, but not the interior, something more like the interior of Rio, of São Paulo, a city like Campinas. I started to think as something that symbolizes Brazil. Not very big, not very small, a city with all the social classes. But I think maybe because in opposition of my first feature, I want to write something that's completely different. Characters that from a completely different upbringing from mine. And to set in this location that is like a nowhere place in Brazil, but that symbolizes Brazil. Because of the budget, we had to shoot in Rio de Janeiro, because it's where it's a production company and most of the people live. But it's a Rio that doesn't look like Rio. We shot in neighborhoods that people don't associate to Rio de Janeiro. And but my idea is that it's not set in Rio de Janeiro, more like in a medium-sized city somewhere in the southeast area of Brazil.
Another question?
Anita, did you write the songs? Talk about the soundtrack, please.
Actually, I wrote some. The songs that the girl sings, the girl choir group, one of them is a version of a Brazilian pop songs from the 90s. I wrote the version. The Jesus is My Love is the name of the version. And the original song is Sonho de Amor. And the song that's in the middle and the credits one is a version of House of the Rising Sun. That is public domain. That was one of the reasons. The other is because I want a song that people would feel familiar, like I recognize this song from somewhere. And also it's fun because it's a song about a brothel, and then they are singing in church. And yes, I made these songs. And then in the process of authorizing music, we are always checking the prices. The film is super low budget, what we can use, what could not use. And then Baby 2 was a song that I had in mind, and then we could afford it. But then we decided to re-record and make a version. And so I invite a producer from Belo Horizonte called Rafael Fantini. He invited a singer, and we recorded the version of Baby 2. The version of Wish on a Star, Mari recorded. Like, Mari, you have a good voice. It's your time to record. Yeah. We also put some Brazilian songs that I love, like Uma Noite e Meia, de Marina Lima, Vaca Profana from Caetano Veloso. that a girl that I met called Mariana recorded, and like 2 months after she recorded, she became a big pop star in Brazil. So now I have this song recorded by a big pop star, but even her name is wrong in the credits because she's changed the way she wrote her name, and then now she's super famous in Brazil. And the songs brought to the climate songs, the sound designer, Bernardo Zeda, I work with him since my first short film. He did that songs pretty much inspired by these films from the 70s, by Goblin, Tangerine Dreams, Carpenter, to give this 70s horror films vibe. But the soundtrack, my next project maybe will be a musical. I'm very fascinated about picking up the songs, the right songs, and having these musical moments in the film.
Oh my God, I can't wait to watch that. Well, because in the opening, it's one of my favorite Susie and the Banshee songs, and so like that was already like a great. And I was happy that you got that choice. For some reason, I didn't notice it the first time, and with like a budget like this, it's so cool that you were able to get a song like that.
This song was the price. I can tell was the price. I don't know, sometimes because it's Brazil, but the deal was amazing. I was shocked when they told me the price.
Wow.
Yes, it was a very good deal. And thank you for the band that gave us the song for a very great price for a Brazilian film. So it's an amazing song that had a lot to do with the film. So it's a great way to start.
Yeah, it was. I think we have time for one more question. Yeah.
Hi, thank you for sharing this movie with us. It was really beautiful. I just wanted to ask you about like the production design and just like the cinematography of everything, especially like within this church and like the infinity symbol. I was just wondering how you came up with that, if that was based on the one you were speaking about that existed in Brazil, or if this was kind of like your own creation.
At the church?
Yeah.
The church, we are a little bit inspired by we really want a aesthetic for the church that was appealing, that people would watch and think, no, this is a show that's happening. The minister is a showman, and we are inspired by. In Brazil, we have all kinds of evangelical churches. We are inspired by one church that put a little bit of a show, and also by a U.S. church. That has a very big branch in Los Angeles that has a lot of, maybe you know, but we are also inspired by that aesthetic. The DP of the film, he has a cousin that lives in LA, and he had just been there and said, Anita, you need to know this. Look at this church. This aesthetic is great, and for us it was important to construct this church with this appealing look that looks like a show, and the production designer. Gina Saren-Levy, she also worked in my first feature, and she made that from scratch. It was like all these locations. We found this amazing place that was an abandoned school. In one building, she constructed the hospital almost from scratch. She painted, she did everything. There was an old gymnasium where she did the temple. We got this location almost for free, and so was good because we were able to do a lot of scenes there, and that made the production be cheaper. But she had a big job. We did there all the hospital, Mari's house, the temple. The scene is in the woods also in the same land. So yeah, and then we thought about the green being the color in the hospital because it go more close to the Medusa, and in the temple we stay a lot of the pink, the purple. And then we also work with this company that do neons, and so they work together in the church to construct that lighting, and also the bus scenes. We shot with the bus. We were not moving the bus; it was parked, and we put the neons in the window, so it was a way for us to shoot it in a safe way. And this neon company was supporting us, doing the temple and doing the lighting to pretend that the bus was moving.
That's awesome. That's really, really cool. Well, thank you so much for telling us about this really wonderful, thoughtful, and fun film. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming. Please tell your friends. The film premieres officially tomorrow. Thank you. Bye.